Welcome everybody to the Candle Enthusiast. I am your host, Shane Carlson. And I am, well, guess where I am? I am at South Deerfield, Massachusetts, home of the Yankee Candle Village flagship store. And you know what time it is. It is, well, we're weeks away from Christmas, the holiday season. And every year I come to the Yankee Candle Village multiple times, but this is going to be my 4th annual in-house Yankee Candle Village evaluation of all of their brand new Christmas fragrances. We have the ALPINE collection, we have other Christmas candles, and we have a whole bunch of returning favorites for Yankee's 50th anniversary. So I just want to welcome everybody for coming in. Usually I edit this video, but seeing that this video is already kind of late, I mean, I usually get this done in October, I figured let's do it live. This way we can communicate, we can talk, you can talk amongst yourselves, and I'm going to smell each candle, break them down, share with you my notes, my opinions, my sensory evaluation. Are you guys ready? I'm ready. I have already taken a look at some of these candles. Made some brief notes. I might refer to my notes a little bit because I had to expedite the amount of time that I spent with these candles. But so far, I have to say a lot of different kind of candles. Something for everybody in this collection. Plus, if you like, you know, the classic type. Yankee candles, the classic style. There's the classic Yankee in some of these candles as well. I'm talking about the spices, the warm, home for the holidays kind of vibe. So let's jump right into it. I do not want to waste any more time. Please feel free to leave comments. If I missed them, don't be upset. It's just that I'm going to try to move through these pretty quick because we do have 8 candles. Plus all of the returning favorites as well, which there's even more of those. So let us get started. I have a basket right here. I'm just gonna grab them and go. And so if you've already burned these candles, if you purchased some of these candles, maybe you wanna grab them, smell along with me. Or if you're still haven't purchased these yet, or if you've been on the fence, you know, we'll try to do a little bit of smell-o-vision between me and you. I'm going to smell these. I'm not going to tell you what I personally really love and what I don't gravitate towards, because what I like might be far different from what you like, and vice versa. So this is not a movie review. This is me smelling these candles cold, and really for me trying to communicate what I smell, some of the ingredients, but also emotionally try to express what these candles stir up, you know, the nostalgia of it all. And I'll try to read Yankee Candle's fragrance notes and descriptions as well. There's an ALPINE collection that consists of 4 fragrances. If I get any of these facts wrong, just please correct me. There's 4 of the ALPINE collection. They all have ALPINE in the title. They have these beautiful labels. You know, you have this like knit, you know, kind of Christmas winter sweater vibe, and just like the fall or the autumn, the farmers market collection, get these nice big labels. So there's a lot going on there. We have this very fluffy, almost like Muppet hair pillow, this bench, and a beautiful view outside this window of. Can you see the saturation of the colors of those mountains? It's really pretty blue, sharp in focus. Cup of coffee, and it looks like there's a brownie right there on the table. So this could be a lot of things. I did not really look at these labels. I briefly smelled them. I want to make that clear. I said it already. But I didn't have a chance to really conceptualize what these candles are. So let me just jump right in. I see all you guys that are joining in there. Thank you for joining. Okay, so I'm already, okay, so I remember, because I just smelled these, like I said, about 25 minutes ago. What I thought was a cup of coffee was what I was assuming there. To me, so much, because I've noticed right off the bat, I have ginger every day. I'm not talking about like ground ginger. I'm talking about fresh ginger. I throw it into my Vitamix. I blend it up, throw some lemon juice in there, maybe some fresh fruit, make a little beverage in the morning. I drink a lot of ginger kombucha. So I'm very familiar with the flavor and the aromatic profile of fresh ginger, not pickled ginger, right? And so my point there is, that leads me to thinking hot toddy. But there's other things in here like a citrus component, like a lemon zest. So maybe it's not, I mean, hot toddies have lemon in it, but I'm thinking, you know, this could also be some form of tea beverage. And there is a clean, warm element to this. And what I mean by that is, you know, the pillow on here, the blanket on this label is coming through in that form of, you know, that what do we want to call it? A warm, clean blanket. We want to call it cashmere. A lot of these aromas that we categorize as clean blankets or cashmere, things of that nature. Clean cotton, another popular one, very popular one by Yankee Candle, is really more, it's not so much the cotton, it's not so much the fabric, it's the fabric softener that we use. So really what that smell consists of is citrus, which I've already mentioned, there's that lemon zest, and florals. And because there's a musky quality to this, it's not a cologne, it's not heavy perfume. In fact, I mean, it would be a nice fragrance to wear, but it's not like a pungent kind of musk. So don't think of like super powdery or a really, really strong men's cologne, not at all. It's actually very elegant and luxurious. So definitely setting the tone, setting the vibe of being indoors, because we have all of those warm components. Let's see if there's anything outdoors that I'm getting. The honey is really coming through here too. Definitely, and I don't think honey is anywhere near in the description of this candle. So maybe we're better off going with the hot toddy. To me, it just, because of the warmth that this candle provokes, and because we usually think of hot toddies having some kind of whiskey-based spirit inside, I'm definitely gonna think more of a hot toddy without that bourbon, or that really nice, powerful tea. Wow, the ginger's coming through. What were some of my other notes that I wrote when I just smelled this? I never do this, but we're changing it up today. Does anyone burn these yet? I always burn the Yankee Candle Classics for the holidays, but I did pick up Evergreen Mint, Steamed Vanilla Milk, and ALPINE Mint. Awesome. Yeah, you know, I do the same thing. I burn the Yankee Classics, but I always get, you know, sometimes I probably shouldn't get the whole collections because some of them go unburned, but I do end up picking it. So I said in my notes just a few moments ago, yeah, so I didn't mention anything woody. So there is this cedarwood dried firewood smell, which is great. Again, it's setting the stage for indoors. It's reinforcing the indoors. Even though we see those beautiful mountains on the horizon of the label, you know, somewhere in this room, outside of the frame, there is that fireplace. Maybe it's not burning anything, but we do smell that really fragrant firewood. At least I do. I'm picking it up, and I think what's enhancing that is, and don't get frightened. Don't get frightened. But there is an unmistakable patchouli in here too. You know, a lot of times patchouli falls more in the herbaceous category. Sometimes patchouli could even go into a dusty category, but more time, or even smoky, but this is really falling into a woody category for patchouli. Patchouli is very, very complex, and the woodiness for me of the patchouli is complementing that cedar. It's, again, it's enhancing and establishing and making sure that we're getting a complexity to that fireplace. And what else? Did I have anything else? I think I touched on that. I wrote pomelo, a grapefruit action. But you know, so coming back to it, I think I'm happy with the lemon. I think the lemon juice and the lemon zest is definitely the way to go with this, especially because in my head, conceptually now, makes me think maybe this is a sick day, maybe this is just a quiet day in the cabin, and I'm sitting by this window sipping on my hot toddy. Hopefully I had my coffee already, and I'm about to lay back on that very fluffy pillow. So Alpine morning, really, really nice. Nice in a way where we're getting that luxurious feel that we got in candles like a calming, quiet place. Or last year we had holiday shimmer. We had these kind of bathroom-esque, luxurious, beautiful soap kind of aromas. But, you know, that's not for everybody. To me, this is a little bit more organic. This is more of the indoors, luxurious, in the cabin, not necessarily something that reminds me of kind of a fancy bathroom, fancy soaps, even though there is that white floral musk. But the predominant thing for me is that hot toddy, and the more I smell it, the more that honey is just coming to the forefront. Let's read Yankee Candle's notes. I never used to do this, but I think that you guys enjoy it. It gives us a frame of reference, where I'm off, where I'm on target, but also, you know, sometimes I just interpret it wrong, and that's always interesting for me to read. So the notes are, for Alpine morning, ginger, candied orange. So interesting. So they're not saying lemon, so I wonder what the concept is for them. Lemongrass. Lemongrass, I think, is probably a very fair. It's definitely a very, very fair comment. Maybe even I'm agreeing with that more than my own statements, because there is, again, there's this herbaceous quality to it. Nutmeg, eucalyptus, frosted iris. So frosted iris, the flower, right? So maybe this is where we're getting that clean, white, floral muskiness from. Maybe that's what's giving it a little bit of that cologne action. We have, as a base notes, patchouli. It really is in here. Sometimes you really, they disguise it, but you really do get it. But don't be turned off if you don't like patchouli. Smell it and then make a decision. Cedarwood and pine. Yeah, I mean, pine to me, I'm always saying that it smells like citrus to begin with. And and eucalyptus, I think, and the eucalyptus that they said, and the lemongrass, already touching on the herbaceous notes. Some of this might be redundant, the fragrance notes, but I think it paints a really good portrait in consumers' heads. And I also have the description as well. How are we all doing out there? And in the description below, after this video goes live, I'll put the time code for when I introduce each candle. So if you're like in a rush and you don't want to sit through a long video, you can skip from candle to candle. And Alpine morning, where'd it go? Alpine morning, did I not write? There it is. Okay, so the description is: wake up to a breath of fresh mountain air, flowers, spice, with a little zing of citrus. Yeah, yeah, it kind of covers it, right? Kind of covers it. Let's move on. Alpine Morning, one more look at that label. You know how I feel about labels, folks. You know how I feel about labels. While we're here, if you're watching, give this video a thumbs up if you are enjoying it. And please feel free to comment, talk amongst yourselves. Where are the candles? I'm grabbing all the returning favorites. Another part of the Alpine collection, after sledding. So what I was so happy that I did when I first smelled this candle is I did not look at the label. I tried not to look at any of these labels. Some of them you absolutely know what they're going to smell like based on the name. But from a far distance, you really don't know what that is, right? And then after sledding doesn't really tell you that much either. But if you look close, we have this plaid or flannel coffee thermos with the actual blanket behind it. We have some hot cocoa with a marshmallow floating in there. We have a tin of cookies, which is key because of something I'm going to say in just a moment. And it looks like we have some chocolate chips, or maybe they're coffee beans? Coffee nibs? No. Under close inspection, they are pine cones. They're kind of tucked away right behind the title of this candle. And excuse me, I'm calling this the Alpine collection. It's called the Mountain Holiday collection. I don't have to change that in the title of this video. So let's give this a sniff. This is I do not compare, I try not to compare candles with candles. And Spook's offspring, I did not visit Santa yet. That might be in the cards for me. This is very reminiscent to another candle, and one that was introduced as a World's Journey Yankee Candle. I can't remember what year, but it was a long time ago, and I had always smelled this candle, and I'm like, why do they not bring this back as a standard Yankee Candle? And the name of that candle was Danish Butter Cookie, and that name alone really explains it all. It really covers what that candle was about. A super buttery, biscuity, salty aroma, super savory. I mean, almost a mouth-watering, delicious factor to that Danish butter cookie. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because although there's some other things going on in here that I'll talk about in a second, at the forefront of this candle is this butter. I mean, take a buttery cookie, melt more butter down, clarified butter, right? And pour it on top of those cookies. Then take that coarse sea salt and just do a little Salt Bay action right there on the cookies, because there is a massive salt and butter attack. And going off of that, if you're a fan of Yankee Candle's salted caramel, like I am, very reminiscent, because we are getting this caramel cube, this freshly made caramel syrup. We can say toffee, right? We could say molasses. We're really getting a rich caramel here. I want to say where there's caramel candy, but I don't think that's a good enough descriptor, because this is a very rich kind of caramel. I'm trying to read the comments here. And let's let me give this. At first, my mind wants to say smoky. It wants to say there's something a little bit smoky, but it's not a fireplace smoke, right? Because that would not be good. Cookies and fire, campfire or Christmas hearth, that doesn't work. But there's something undeniably a little bit roasted, toasted here. And what suddenly came to my mind, because of the creaminess of this candle, sure, there's a dairy-rich component. We see hot chocolate on the label there, so we know we got to have some kind of a rich, warm dairy component But what I finally kind of reduced it down to was roasted, lightly roasted, perfectly roasted marshmallows, and almost to the point where, you know, the chocolate that's starting to show in here, the chocolate to me doesn't smell like Hershey's chocolate or syrup, or it doesn't smell like hot fudge or even like candy bar milk chocolate or dark chocolate. To me, this is a really sweet, candified. It's almost like sugar that's been inoculated with chocolate. And it's very easy for me to call this one out because there's hot chocolate on the label, but it really does smell straight up like Swiss Miss powder. Not when it's made, not when you're drinking the Swiss Miss, no, no. It smells like you rip open that foil packet and you're smelling the actual mix inside. There's that cocoa that's enhanced with whatever kind of freeze-dried creamer that they're using, and of course tons and tons of sugar. Man, that's it's a very buttery aroma. And if I sound like I'm making that like a bad thing, it's not. At least not for me. I know I had some other interesting ones here. Let me see what else I had in my descriptions. Getting a bunch of people looking at me again, thinking, "What is this guy doing?" And it's a part of the game here, you know. You gotta, if you're gonna do this, you gotta go all out, right? I wish these were in order, which would make it much easier. Do I not have it written down? Alpine morning. After sledding, I put Danish butter cookie, graham cracker crust. Yeah, how did I forget about that? So it's a little bit of this Teddy Grahams kind of thing, right? We got. Who do we have here? Yes, we do. We have Doug from Spooky Villages, or more importantly, when it comes to the candle world, hauling wax. Big shout out to Doug. Doug and I, we have to catch up. We haven't. We've been quite busy. Both of us. And granulated sugar as well, roasted marshmallow, caramel / toffee, clarified butter. Clarified butter is when you remove the milk fat. So think about when you go to, you know, a seafood restaurant and you get lobster and you're dunking the lobster or the crab or something into the butter that they give you. That's clarified butter. They skim off all of the milk fat. And believe it or not, it does have, to me at least, a significant difference in flavor. It's usually the butter they put on popcorn as well. I put Swiss Miss, Cracker Jack. That's important because just so when I was saying where there's caramel candy, the reason I went to caramel or Cracker Jack is because Cracker Jack or caramel popcorn is usually more well done when it comes to the caramel. And that's an important statement here. It's, again, it kind of borders that line of molasses or really dark. We're talking like dark brown caramel. And I put salt with a big star next to it. Laura, how we doing? Thanks so much for joining in. I'm trying to catch all your comments. Just keep them coming. Hopefully I can catch you guys in the corner of my eye. We're going to keep going here, though. Let me show you that label one more time. After sledding, you know, for me, when it comes to savory sweets, especially holiday candles, fragrances, that's for me. That's definitely for me. I usually don't like super intense candles, but when it comes to savory treats or baked goods, you better believe I like powerful or high intensity. Now, I was told here at the Yankee Candle Village today that this has been a very popular candle, and I've kind of been out of touch for the past couple months. I've been working on several different projects, uncandle related, so I haven't really spent much time researching, and usually by this time, usually in the summer, I get my hands on all of these candles early, hunting them down. This is also part of, I'm calling it the Alpine collection, but it's the Mountain Holiday collection. And we see there, we have these, what are those? Are the hemlock? maybe hemlock trees or some kind of evergreen, high up on the mountain. Nice, dense, thick fog. Anyone here in the northeast a couple days ago would have seen fog just like this. I was in New York City. It was shrouded in blankets of thick fog. So not a lot of information here. Beautiful image, but not a lot of information here. So let's smell this. Every year you have to have a Christmas tree inspired candle. I've said this on every Christmas evaluation, and it's just true. Every year you have to have one. So how is this one different? That is, it's still, I smelled this and was excited before, and I have to say, this gets me excited. It really does, because to me, it's not just about, ooh, that smells like a Christmas tree. I love it. I'm always thinking, how can we break the mold and make a Christmas tree candle smell new, smell fresh, smell different, unique? How can we push the envelope and really change this world of just straight up, you know, face in a pine tree kind of thing? I think Yankee Candle's Christmas tree, that's all it's called, Christmas tree. It was a returning favorite a couple of years back. Is a fantastic example of that, because you're not just smelling the needles, you're smelling the bark, you're smelling the earth, you're smelling the ground, you're smelling the surroundings. It's the whole experience of chopping down that Christmas tree. And to me, I don't know if I can explain an experience here. I could probably come up with one, but there's other things going on. So first, let's cover those pine notes. There is a big balsam cedar, like balsam and cedar candle, right? Take that balsam and cedar candle, Yankee's highest selling candle of all time. We have that. We have that cedar, fresh, a little bit of that sap. We have the needles, really bright, fresh, lively needles. But here's the thing. This to me smells just as much like Yankee Candle's mistletoe as it does balsam and cedar. And for me, what is the difference between Yankee Candle's mistletoe and balsam and cedar? Balsam and cedar smells alive. It smells fresh, right? It's like you just cut down the tree. Where mistletoe always has this dried out Christmas tree aromatic. You know, when it's January and it's time to throw out that Christmas tree, the pine needles have, all the water has sapped out, right? And it just concentrates the smell. Or if you're camping in the summertime and you go underneath like a blue spruce or a spruce tree, and you smell those dried out pine needles that have fallen to the ground, there's an amazing concentration to this smell. So I don't want to call this dead Christmas tree. Think of this as a Christmas wreath. Christmas wreath that's on your front door, but because it's on your front door all during the month of December, what's going to happen? That sun beats down on that wreath and creates heat. It's going to create evaporation, and it's going to concentrate those smells. I love it. We're smelling a little bit of the pine cone. We're smelling the brightness, the citrus qualities that we find in pine needles. I would say, to me, I mean, this is going to be different for all of us. I would classify this as some form of spruce, a tree. It's not necessarily that you know, the softer coniferous trees, pine needles, which I usually had growing up. The other description that I've always used is, you know how every year when we go and we get our Christmas decorations out of the closet, the attic, the basement, whatever they may be, and I've probably said this 1,000 times, so I apologize if you've heard me say this before, but every year, you know, my dad would make me go get the box of decorations and open up the boxes, and this amazing smell would come out. And what it was the pine needles from the Christmas tree from the year before. All year long, those pine needles were sitting in those boxes, drying out, concentrating, and filling that box up with its wonderful aroma. So to me, when I smell Yankee Candle's mistletoe, or when I smell something like this, Evergreen Mist by Yankee Candle, I am getting that big time. But with that said, there is that freshness, that bright freshness of a you just cut that tree down, you threw it on top of the car, you got a little bit of sap on your gloves. But there's more. There's always more. But let me go back to my notes so I make sure I don't miss anything. I have dried pine needles, sun-dried Christmas wreath, pine cone. Absolutely, guys. Absolutely, for sure. Pine cones all the way. And, you know, if you look at, you know, don't think of the pine cones that you get in like an arts and crafts store in the little sachet. Go outside. Find a pine tree, right? Pick one up off the ground. You'll see the little white stuff that's on the pine cone. It's not snow, right? That white stuff is the sap or the terpene that leaks, right? It drips, or it's called a tearing outside of, you know, from within the pine cone. Stuff is super sticky, but talk about aroma. If you want to be very specific about Christmas trees here, or coniferous trees, pine trees, you name it, whatever, you name it. You got to look at the different elements of the tree, not just the sum of its parts. And I said limeade, so that's the other thing that I want to address here. Why is this different from an average, not average, but you know, how is this different than a Christmas tree fragrance that comes out every year by Yankee Candle? Fruity. Really fruity, and I debated how I wanted to describe this for a while, but I think I've narrowed it down to really the essence of how I feel, what I'm picking up with my nose. This is subjective, folks. Limeade. Limeade, right? You can say lemonade if you want, but limeade. There is the citrus juice, the tartness, the perceived tartness, the zestiness, but there is an undeniable sweetness to it, right? Much more sweetness than we would get from a lime, right? The sugar and lime, but nothing like this. We need that really sweet beverage of that limeade to fully illustrate what I am smelling, which is interesting because another candle that was popular and is a returning favorite for this year is Pine Cone and Lime. I think that's the name, or lime pine cone. We'll find out in a moment. But that was, everyone seemed to love that candle, and it left us just as soon as it came. So if you're a fan of mistletoe, balsam and cedar, and if you're a fan of pine cone lime, and you want to mix all of them together, this is a great addition, in my opinion, for your Yankee Candle collection. Evergreen Mist by Yankee Candle, brand new for 2019, a part of the Mountain Holiday Collection. One more thing I'll say about that candle. And you know, sometimes I'm a little silly with my descriptors, but they always come from the heart. I always mean them. I'm willing to debate them, even though sometimes receive a little criticism for them. I will stand up by them, and I smell this, I got it, I smelled it again, I got it again, and I just smelled it now, and I smelled it a third time. I have to say it. It smells like Concord grape jelly. There's this very, very distinct Welch's Concord grape jelly. Now, is it a prominent note? Is it something that everyone will smell? No, certainly not. Is it something that you will smell necessarily? Probably, I don't know, maybe not, but I smell it. I spend a lot of time around grapes, and you know, to me is definitely this Concord, very sweet grape, or well, we'll leave it at that, but I want to mention, this is not like, I don't mean like artificial grape. I do not mean artificial grape. I do not mean like grape soda or something like that. Just a nuance I picked up on, thought it might be interesting to share. Let's keep this going. Let's see, let's make sure that we're getting finishing up this mountain collection. Oh yeah, this is right down my alley. You know, as soon as I saw this, this one kind of reared its head back in the summer, and quite excited because chocolate and mint, by and large, always one of my favorite combinations when it comes to, but also when it comes to candles. This one is called Alpine Mint. And on that label there, we see some form of beverage. There's nothing to tell us this is hot, this is cold. Well, I mean, I'm gonna guess it's cold. It's got a candy cane in there. It's not a straw, so maybe it is hot. We don't know. We don't know. And there does seem to be fresh mint, a sprig of fresh mint on top there. And Eric, moderator of the Candle Enthusiast Facebook group, is confirming, or at least sharing, that this has been performing well for him, which is great, because there's a few of them that have been released that in the past that have not, of this genre. Let's give it a sniff. Yeah, man. I mean, that's where my heart lies. So super creamy, we can say melted mint chocolate chip, mint chocolate cookie, you name it. But to me, this is like warm milk that's been sweetened. And really the first thing that comes to mind as far as mint is concerned is definitely not fresh mint. Definitely not fresh mint at all. This is a candified mint. This is York's peppermint patty. This is junior mint, that classic highly sweetened chocolate and peppermint profile. So York's peppermint patty for sure, even though that's a little bit of a darker chocolate, where I think this is more of a milk chocolate. But how about this? Grasshopper cookies. Grasshopper cookies are thin mints, you know, the Girl Scout cookies. There's a definitive, not just a chocolate nature, like you see the chocolate drizzle that's on top of this beverage. There's a definitive a chocolate cookie note, right? That crispy, crunchy snap of whatever's inside of a grasshopper, whatever's inside of a thin mint. We could just think of, imagine an Oreo. Well, I'm sure they make mint chocolate Oreos, but an Oreo wrapped in a mint chocolate. There's that chocolate cookie aroma. And what I will say, I said not fresh mint, but what I will give it is there is a cooling sensation. So even though I don't smell like fresh mint leaves, I smell there's that sensation of a cooling sensation, like double mint gum or Wrigley's spearmint gum, highly sugar-fied, but still, you know, a nice cleansing flavor. I mean, marshmallows, we can go there, but I really think that, you know, that's kind of just going to be redundant at this point. Just think of a sweet cream, warm. For me, this reads as warm with that cookie crumble. I know I had some other things here, and I didn't read Yankee Candle's description of the last candle. I knew that was going to happen, of the last two candles. So maybe I'll go back. Alpine Mooring, those are my notes. Those are my notes. Alpine Mint. I have York's Peppermint Patty, only I spelled it New York's Peppermint Patty. Junior Mints, Double Mint Gum, Whole Milk, in parentheses, warm, Sweet Cinnamon Sugar. Yeah, I mean, I think, I honestly, I would leave that out. But, you know, not leave it out of the candle, but I would leave it out of the description. But I do find that it's there in a very, very small, nuanced way. Dark caramel and molasses. So I went back to that. And also something in here. I'm glad I'm reading this because when I said grasshopper cookie and I put thin mint, I also put Twix the cookie as well because there's that caramel in the cookie inside that Twix. Maybe it's not called a cookie. Is it called a biscuit of some sort? I don't know. But think of that when I'm talking about that chocolatey cookie aroma. Maybe it's that way because of a perceived saltiness. Andy's mints, absolutely. Someone just said Andy's mints. I missed your name. Costa, thank you so much for sharing that. Definitely. So if you like those chocolate after dinner mints with, you know, like Andy's mints, definitely the way to go. I absolutely adore these. I'm gonna go back and read the fragrance notes of the ones I missed. Evergreen Mist. This is Yankee Candle's notes. Douglas Fir, Orange Zest, Forest Air, Orange Zest, huh? I was definitely getting that lime. Evergreen Bark, Eucalyptus. Okay. I agree with that. I wish I kind of said it. Balsam, vanilla, and pine. Maybe the vanilla is the only one. Yeah, I don't think there's any reason for this evergreen mist to bring up vanilla. I mean, again, it paints a beautiful portrait for consumers. But if you're looking at these in a very literal form, I don't think it's necessary to say it. Okay, so after sledding, excuse me, let's read the fragrance notes here. Maple toffee, cinnamon, salted caramel brulee. That sounds delicious. A nutmeg, a little bit of spice, okay? Vanilla bean and maple drizzle. Totally maple drizzle or maple syrup. So that's something I really wish I had said because that is very true, very true. In fact, yeah, I think maybe that's what's adding the strength to that butter cookie. Let's read the descriptions, not the notes, but the descriptions. Alpine mint, Yankee Candle. A creamy celebration of fresh mint, dark chocolate. See, I didn't say dark chocolate. I distinctly said milk chocolate. Almond and sweet vanilla. Yeah, to me, I think, yeah, I agree. I described it differently, but I definitely agree with that. And then after sledding, how did they describe that? What description? After sledding. The scent of tempting treats, sweet maple, baking spices, and vanilla bean offers a warm welcome after a day of winter fun. Yeah, on point. I'll try not to forget one's coming up. How we all doing? We doing good? Four down, four to go, but we have all of the returning favorites coming up. This one is not a part of the Mountain Holiday collection, but it is new for this season. It's called Candlelit Cabin. And yeah, I mean, this is something I dream about all the time. I love the concept, the idea, and every so often I have a chance to do it, to find a cabin somewhere in the middle of a beautiful wintry forest and just spend a couple days to unwind, to do the things that I normally don't get to do, like sit down and read a good book or spend some time cooking or just spend time out in the snow and having that chance to reflect, and to also clear your head. I always come back refreshed. So with that said, already, you know, can this aroma of this candle help that experience, or can it help me remember or escape to that experience that I have? With a name like this, there's a lot of expectations for me. So let me jump into it and see what we have. This is, I like it a lot. Okay, so this is a complex one, guys, so I'm going to really have to boil this down. So if, again, I'm comparing candles to candles here, but I think this is important to say. If you were a fan of, help me out with the name, was it Oak and Incense, Oak Amber Incense that came out this past year? Not past year, but earlier this season. This is going to play about a lot of the same rules. When you smell this, it smells dry. It smells like aged wood. It smells not necessarily smoky, but we associate the aromas with this candle with things that are smoky, and I'll try to elaborate on that. What a beautiful mixture here, unquestionably, is. Don't get turned off. Think about the wooden qualities. Think about cedar if you want to think about cedar. Think about firewood if you want to think about firewood. But there's kind of a trio thing for me happening here. Patchouli, vetiver, hardwood. Hardwood. What do I mean by hardwood? Well, there's softwood, right? You know, some of us may know this. Softwood, hardwood. So pine, softwood, but something like cherry or maple, hardwood, hard. This smells like an oak barrel, and that was a signature of that Oak Amber Incense candle in the fall, and I'm definitely getting this here. This smells like a luxurious furniture store, but because of the name, I'm not thinking of a furniture store. I'm thinking about walking into this cabin and smelling this beautifully aged furniture, this furniture that's been in this cabin for God knows how long. It has this wooden quality, and the patchouli in here and the vetiver in here. Vetiver is very like of the earth, like it smells like roots or hay or dried vegetation. I'm going to get back to that in a little bit, but the patchouli, the woodiness and the smokiness of the patchouli and that oak really work together as a trio to paint this very vivid aroma of the experience of walking into that cabin, not just smelling the furniture, but the floorboards, the whole structure of this building. You know, we can even go as far to say as, you know, maybe like grandpa sitting by the fireplace smoking a pipe. We get a little bit of this corncob pipe, not a corncob pipe, but we get that sweet smell of that the bowl of pipe that is used for, you know, it's got the smell of this expired tobacco inside. It has that really sweet raisin smell. But because the vetiver, like I said, dry vegetation and hay, because that's used all of the time in colognes and even perfumes, especially of most in the past, you know, like in the 70s, in the 80s, early 90s, vetiver was really big. It smells earthy, but some of us are going to make that association with cologne here. And maybe that's why I said grandpa by the fire, because, you know, maybe, you know, it's this kind of manly smell, this masculine smell of like grandpa's flannel or something, right? So be warned by that. There is a cologne nature to this candle, but, you know, I'm not going to say that it dominates the candle, but I'm not going to say that it's a small nuance either. Trying to remember what I was writing in my notes. Yeah, you got to say some kind of nuttiness here. And, you know, maybe sometimes I'm overly specific, but, you know, to me, again, we're trying to create smell-o-vision here. It's, you know, the smell of this is not just a walnut or a pecan, an almond, or honey roasted peanut, something like that. We've got to be really specific. This smells like a fresh walnut shell. It doesn't smell like the nut itself, but you know what I mean when you smell the shell, specifically the inside of that nut. You could say pecan too. If you smell the inside of that shell, there's that, again, we can't smell bitterness, we can't smell astringency, but there's that very distinct smell of that walnut, which is great, right? Because that's gonna tie in with the furniture, it's gonna complement those aromas. But if you kind of single that out, whether you're looking at dried walnuts, or I'm not saying not dried walnuts, but the walnut shells, or if you're even think about roasted chestnuts, if that's going to help you draw on that association, again, that's just going to bring us into that cabin. Sandalwood. I want to say I'm going to say sandalwood because sandalwood. Every company's sandalwood's going to smell different. It's a proprietary blend, and you know, they can smell wildly different. But most of them, what they have in common is sandalwood smells fresh. It smells new. It smells like new timber. I went to say lumber and timber. It smells like brand new, prepared, cut wood. But it doesn't smell like Home Depot, right? So think of that new deck, that the frame of the house, or the guest house in the back, or the cabin up in the mountains. There is that smell of fresh wood, and that does add a little bit of luxury to this candle. And if we see that cabin there, that isn't just like some handmade cabin. No, that's got some massive window panes in there. That looks like someone who's doing pretty well for themselves just bought or built a cabin. Let me see if I can get my notes that I wrote earlier on this candle. Candlelit cabin. I said vetiver sandalwood. Ooh, so I didn't even write patchouli here. So vetiver I would have been very angry if I didn't say this one. Yes. Okay. Wow. There's a close tie to this. Crisp Fall Night. 2016 Autumn Collection came out with Autumn Gathering. Crisp Fall Night, still in production today. There's a very distinct quality to that candle, and it is peppercorn. Really what makes that candle stick out, but also contributes to a cologne aroma, a cologne profile, because peppercorn is another common ingredient in colognes. And so that is something, I'm so glad I didn't leave that out, because that is a major player here. My nose is just going crazy because so many candles. I said, so keep that in mind. I said oak, chestnuts, musk. Well, musk goes without saying when we talk about cologne. Incense, kind of pulled that from the oak amber incense. Going back to this candle, I feel okay leaving that out. Dried foliage, bam. But do I mean real dried foliage? No. Do I mean like the pile of leaves in your front yard in autumn? No. It's not what that smells like. It's not what this smells like. But 9 out of 10 times when we buy a candle that's called autumn leaves or freshly fallen foliage, it doesn't smell like fresh leaves. We know what fresh leaves smells like. It's a different aroma. It smells like wet vegetation. But in the fragrance world, they pretty up that aroma of freshly fallen foliage, and usually one of the prime ingredients there is going to be vetiver, and sometimes a lot of florals if they really want to make it whimsical and pretty. So keep that in mind. Foliage of the in fragrance terms, in the fragrance world, not necessarily in real life. So really, really interesting candle. If you saw my evaluation of Oak Amber Incense for Yankee Candle Autumn 2019, you know how much I raved about that candle. Although this is very close to that, that's great because this is an extension of something. If you enjoy that candle, you'll certainly like this candle. But if you want to get something that's not the same that you got in autumn, maybe this is one you might want to leave behind. But with a label like that, I don't know. What does Yankee Candle say? And when I say a label like that, I mean, because I really like that candle or label. Their description is, the warm glow of candlelit welcomes you to a winter retreat. Rustic pine, warm spices, and earthy notes fill the air. Didn't really get much of any spices at all on this candle. And if I was going to say anything, I would say nutmeg. Oh, but that's probably in the description. That might be in Yankee Candle's description, is nutmeg. But I really don't get that much at all. And if I do, I don't think it's worth noting. Yeah, okay, so what are the fragrance notes? What? Okay, so obviously I wrote these down, but I was not processing this. I just quickly grabbed these from the internet. And I'm baffled by this first one, rhubarb. Maybe, folks, but it's the first one. And I honestly, in a million years, if I was writing about this candle, I would not say rhubarb. But this is what's interesting, or what I find interesting. Does anybody have this candle? Does anyone burn this candle? Does anyone smell this candle? Does anyone smell rhubarb on this candle? Disagree with me, please. It's all about the dialogue between us here, please. So rhubarb is the first one here. Black peppercorn, man, and that was I remember when I first smelled this, that I nailed that quickly, because it reminded me of crisp fall night so much. Apple is another top note on this candle. Mid notes, nutmeg, there you go, magnolia. So, yeah, that will certainly add to that cologne perfume quality. And I'm not going to necessarily disagree with that. I think that's probably a very, very fair descriptor on this candle. Hazelnut. You know what? I kind of like that too. I'm happy to, yeah. I said walnut, but hazelnut, I will totally go there with you, Yankee. Base notes, vetiver, absolutely. Patchouli, absolutely. And amber. Now, amber is a long conversation, I'm always saying that, but because this smells very similar to oak amber and incense, it makes sense that amber is in the description. What is, I read the description already. So let's move on. We have 5 down, 3 to go, and then we'll get into the returning favorites. Here we go. So this is the kind of candle that's always going to grab my attention on this shelf. But be careful, because you might look at this and just think that this is spiced white cocoa, which was introduced as an online exclusive in 2016 and brought back last year. This is not that, nor is this vanilla and cinnamon or milk and whatever. Vanilla, cinnamon, I'm forgetting. The one that smells like Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Very similar labels, similar colored wax, but we do have a brand new beverage. Steamed milk and vanilla. Now remember, steamed milk, froth milk, different things. I'm not sure how specific we're going to get, but when it comes to beverages, I am a beverage enthusiast myself, and I love the simplicity of that label. And I don't mean that it's a bad label or a bad photograph, but it's just not cluttered, and it doesn't have to be. We have that, you know, that spoon, that wonderful dramatic lighting in the background, you know, that light leaking in through the kitchen window, and that foamed milk with, it looks like a little bit of ground, I'm guessing that would be nutmeg, not cinnamon, it could be cinnamon, on top of that mug. That kind of looks like a camping mug. Let's give this a sniff. This is why you have to go back to candles a couple times, because I smelled this, it's probably about an hour ago now, and you know, it's a little bit of a different experience. I mean, the dramatic notes are the same, but there's a few things that I'm kind of changing my mind on. A few things that are being confirmed, and a few things that I didn't even notice before. So, warm milk sounds so silly to use warm milk on as a description on a candle that's called steam vanilla milk. But we have to think about that for a second. Think about a glass of cold milk, think about a glass of warm milk, think about a glass of hot milk, right? Cold, or a cold temperature in a beverage or a liquid is going to stifle the aroma. You're not going to be able to smell it as much, right? When you have a super cold glass of milk, you can't smell it that much. Or if you have a really bad bottle of wine, it's a little trick. If you have a bad bottle of Chardonnay and it's not tasty, pop it in the freezer for a few minutes. So the colder you get it, the more you're going to stifle that flavor. But the opposite is true. The more you let something warm up, or the hotter a beverage is, the more you can smell it. It's a much more intense aroma. And also when you warm milk, you're actually changing it chemically a little bit. So it does have a very distinct aroma. And this milk isn't just like a skim milk, 1%, 2%. This is creamy. I mean, this is creamy whole milk easily. And almost to the point where, like, this milk is starting to have signs of like whipped butter, whipped butter, including the salt. You know, there's that dairy-rich smell, but it's so savory that it's starting to dip into that category of butter, and in this case at least, an addition of salt. And because of that butter, I usually save the silly descriptions to the end, but I gotta say this before I forget it. And don't take this as a bad thing, or me making fun of this candle. I'm not making fun, but some of us like them, some of us don't, but unmistakable aroma of Jelly Bellies, movie theater buttered popcorn flavored jelly bean syrup. Yes. Not so much the popcorn, obviously, but that butter flavor, that artificial butter flavor. And just because I said artificial doesn't mean it's bad. It's just what we associate with buttered flavored novelty candies or whatever it may be. Smells like French vanilla ice cream. I mean, you know, like, it has that exotic vanilla bean, that vanilla pod. You scrape that vanilla pod out, you get that exotic nature of the vanilla bean. So not just like the bargain section vanilla ice cream. We're talking about that good stuff, that stuff you spend like an extra several dollars for, that has the vanilla beans, the real vanilla beans in it. It has that aroma, and so much so, because this is reading to me as very warm, this smells like melted ice cream. Like you just had that cone, the vanilla bean ice cream, and it's melting all down your hand. Because again, the warmer something is, the more aroma it's going to have. Very, very good. What else did I have here in my notes? I'm missing comments. I'm trying to do my best. You know, there's a few other things I wrote here. I do want to keep it simple. To me, that is the gist. I put vanilla bean, warm milk, whipped butter, melted ice cream. Bingo. How could I miss this one? Yes, 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 yes. Rice pudding, tapioca pudding. Smell it. If you have it, smell it. Pick it up. Take it off the shelf. Smell it. If you don't have it, go next time you go to the mall, next time you go to Yankee Candle, pick it up off the shelf and smell it. Tapioca pudding, rice pudding. Again, it adds to this thick confection, creamy pudding. Something you smell this and you think dessert time. So snack pack all of the way here. I said ground cinnamon. I'm gonna leave that out. It's one of the things I think I wrote, and I'm not picking it up the second time. And if I don't smell it the second time, I feel like it's something I can leave out. So let's read the fragrance notes of this candle. You know, do I not have, I might not have the fragrance notes of this candle. I do. Steamed vanilla milk. Top notes of hot milk, go figure. Vanilla, almond, sweet cream. I agree with all of those. Vanilla bean, sandalwood. Maybe when we burn it, but sandalwood is something you're gonna smell on cold. You're gonna smell sandalwood on cold. It's not gonna magically appear when you burn it. So that's a tough one for me. And it also says musk as well. Maybe. But, I mean, if it's there, great. But it's reading as a savory treat. It's not reading as it's, you know, getting a little bit of the sandalwood, which to me would give it this, again, like a luxurious feel. And muskiness would certainly give it a luxurious feel. And that's a subjective way of saying it. But what I mean by that is, you know, it's going to give it a cologne or give you some form of atmospheric nuances. Thank you for everyone who's tuning in. I have been burning it with hot cocoa type candles, says Eric. I think that's a fantastic idea. You know, it's so buttery that maybe some folks might even read the buttery quality as a white chocolate. Everyone's talking about the bell. Make sure, I think if we're talking about the notification bell, hit the notification bell. Starting January 1st, YouTube, not starting, they've already made some changes. But there's big changes coming up for YouTube January 1st, and we'll talk about that in the very, very near future. But we're celebrating the holidays today, so we'll skip that conversation. But you guys talk about whatever you want to talk about. And $20 super chat. Thank you so much from Cruisebat. So I very much appreciate that. And again, this is going to tie into starting January 1st, how important your support is going to be for this channel. And Cruisebat Morgan, huge, long-time supporter of the Candle Enthusiast. Much love to you. Thank you very much. Last candle of the collection here, and a very Merry Christmas to you too, Morgan. Try to get these words out correctly. The last of the bunch here. One, two. No. It's not true. It's not true. Nope. We have another Mountain Holiday Collection candle coming after this. So we have Christmas Celebration. And if we take a close look there, let's look at this label. We have these, from a distance, they look like plastic cups. They are not. They look glass and they look fancy when you look up close. But there's some kind of pomegranate, well, it's, I don't know. some kind of cocktail. Let's put it that way. But then there's this other glass that looks like Coca-Cola. Like, what's going on there? It's like, is that the, you know, one's with maybe the tonic water, the club soda, and the other one's not? I don't know. There's a sprig of rosemary inside of these cocktails. There's the floating cranberries in there. If I said pomegranate before, I apologize. And there's some kind of garland in the background. So Christmas celebration, what better way to celebrate Christmas than with a high quality cocktail or libation of some sort? Let's give this a sniff and see what this is about. Okay, there was a candle last year. I'm trying to think of the name of it, but it was all over the place. Like, it was really like we had 5 candles burning at one time. A lot of notes. And that's not a bad thing in my book. It's fun, to be honest with you. But definitely this is falling into that category. I'm kind of shocked because the first time I smelled this, I wasn't getting that much of a conglomeration of aroma. So there's some kind of a cedar wood backdrop to this candle. Herbaceous notes for sure. Since there's rosemary on the label, you know, a garnish in those cocktails, let's go with rosemary. Rosemary has a pine tree aroma-like quality to it, and with that, it has a citrus, a lemon citrus, rosemary or pine needles, and this does have, like, if this is a cocktail, there's in that recipe there is fresh lemon juice or lime juice going into that cocktail. So, what was my notes? I'm starting to think I haven't smelled this candle. That's what happened. No, I did smell this candle. Okay, all right, okay. It's coming back a little bit, but it's really showing itself different to me. I mean, it's probably because in the process of smelling all of these candles, probably smelled about 36 today in depth. But as I'm reading these notes, I remember my thoughts coming back to me. But yeah, this is definitely a very prominent point. So a couple years ago, we had a candle called, help me out if I get it wrong, guys. Help me out. Was it something pepperberry? Something like that, right? Pepperberry. And it had this red fruit, Dr. Pepper, cherry combination thing going on in it. And to me, that is something that's very reminiscent in Yankee Candle's Christmas Eve. Pepperberry and spruce. Thank you so much. Appreciate the help. It's very reminiscent in Yankee Candle's Christmas Eve and Sugar Plum. And Sugar Plum is the description in Yankee Candle's Christmas Eve. And yeah, so there's this really tart blue fruit aroma that is, it's really hard to classify. It really is. You know, sometimes it kind of smells like this cherry Dr. Pepper thing. And sometimes it's just, you know, a sour plum. But sour and sweet plum, but that's definitely in the works here. Okay, so I'm getting the smoke now. I'm getting legit smoke. But something interesting happened before, is that when I first smelled this candle, I was smelling, or was bringing to my mind, hang in there, this is gonna be weird, but barbecue potato chips. It didn't smell like a bag of barbecue potato chips, but it was reminding me of a bag of barbecue potato chips, and I'm like, what is it in the bag of barbecue potato chips? Well, barbecue sauce has molasses. Bingo, molasses. That I think is a good descriptor for this candle. You know, just to give it something different other than caramel, because this is not a salty caramel like some of the other candles that we smelled, but it does have a sweet component that's rich and robust. Molasses is definitely a way to go. But what else does barbecue potato chips have? They have liquid smoke. Yes, they're not actually smoking barbecue potato chips, at least not like Lay's or something like that. They're using a product called liquid smoke, which is essentially you're distilling smoke. You're letting smoke, you know, usually from wood chips, burn, and you're going to condense that smoke back into a liquid form. And it's one of the key ingredients to anything that's barbecue flavored that doesn't actually have barbecue sauce in it, and including potato chips. So, does it smell like Lay's? Does it smell like potato? No. But what I was picking up on, I think, was a combination of that molasses and that liquid smoke. However, how does it register? Well, it registers as, yeah, there's some smokiness here. And to me, it's not just the fireplace. To me, this can almost be like incense, the church, frankincense, myrrh. Not so much the resin of frankincense, myrrh, no, but when they burn that resin, they're using little pellets of compressed particles of wood, biomatter. They compress it, they mix it with the resin, they light that on fire, and that when you've ever spent time in a Christian mass or ceremony, the three wise men brought the myrrh and the frankincense to baby Jesus, the nativity set, all that stuff, right? It smells like I just walked into like St. Patrick's Cathedral, which I did just the other day. That smell of incense, but again, not so much the frankincense and the myrrh, but that smoky wooden quality that we get from it. I also wrote roasted chestnut. I'm not going to disagree with myself, so I'll keep it in. Roasted chestnut. Christmas Celebration by Yankee Candle. We have one more. Let me clear the table. And then after that, hang in tight, guys, because we're going to talk about all of the returning favorites. I'm going to share some information and a little bit about the history of some of the candles that are returning. Tell you some of my own personal opinions, which ones I like. I usually don't get a chance to share my opinions. And then I have to return all these candles. I'm going to buy my favorite Christmas ones, but I can't buy everything that's in this cart. I certainly cannot. Not today. Not during the Christmas season. Abundance of cash flow is not something I would say I have this time of year, or maybe ever, really. If I can find the candle. All right. So, what is going on? Let's have a little talk about Yankee Candle, Christmas, and beverages. Beverages has become a part of Yankee Candle Christmas going back to, what was that, 2017? You know, All Is Bright and the martinis. I can't even remember the names now, because some of them returned, some of them, or was it 2016? Maybe 2016. But yeah, they're dipping into the world of beverages. And if you guys don't know, some of you may not know, I actually have a degree in beverages. I know that's ridiculous to hear, but it is true. And so this is actually quite exciting for me. Although, is it redundant for you guys? Do you want the smell of beverages? Or is this starting to become like too much? You let me know. But there seems to be an option, at least one option every year. And this one is a pomegranate gin fizz. One of the first cocktails you're going to make if you're planning on becoming a bartender is going to be that gin fizz. And that looks like a pretty darn good one too. Once again, we have this cocktail that's on ice. Stephanie Hall with the $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Stephanie. She says, "Hi Shane, so glad to see you. I've been absent for a bit. Happy holidays, Stephanie. I've been absent myself, which is a great way for me to slide in and plug what I've been working on. Go to my channel. There's a whole playlist of a documentary that I have been making, a behind-the-scenes documentary of a feature film. Check it out. Over 40 hours of content there. Pomegranate Gin Fizz, we have the cocktail on ice with a sprig of what looks like a Douglas fir. This is not rosemary. This is not spruce or anything like that. This has those soft, short needles. We have an ornament and some candy cane ribbon. And we have a bottle, it's really hard to see right there, but like a Bordeaux bottle that's filled with, that could be our gin. Hopefully it's a nice artisanal gin that's in there. I love gin cocktails. But does this smell like a gin cocktail? All right, so when we think of pomegranate, you know, we may think of cranberry. We may think, during the holiday season, our minds may go to winter berries, even though winter berries don't taste like red fruit, because it's not red fruit, or in the category of red fruits. Also red currants, but I feel like all those things are there, but there is a significant level of strawberry daiquiri in here. And I said daiquiri for a reason, because this is like a strawberry daiquiri where you're using frozen strawberries, you thaw them out, you throw them in the blender with some ice, and you're making you know, like a slushy, you know, the iced form of strawberry daiquiri. It has that reconstituted strawberry aroma. But does it smell like cranberry? Yes. Does it smell like raisins, dehydrated, you know, cranberries? Yes, but highly, highly, highly sweetened. You know, cranberries unsweetened are so astringent and so tart that they're hardly even edible. So this is not cranberry sauce. This is much more of a big tart explosion that's going to be balanced out with heavy-duty sweetness. And there is a candy quality to this candle. Before I go there, let me say this before I forget it. Smelling it right now, there's some pineapple juice going on here. If anyone has this one, please smell it and let me know if you're getting the same thing. There is a straight up Dole's pineapple juice aroma in this candle, which is just adding to the sweetness and the tartness. Pineapple, unlike most fruit, has both malic acid and citric acid, and that is why when we have pineapple, it's such a tart, acidic explosion. But pineapple has to be right? Otherwise, it's inedible, and the reason is because that sugar has to fully develop, which will tone down the tartness in the fruit. And I feel like that's exactly what's happening in this candle. There's so much tartness happening. However, there's enough sweetness that's bringing down, it's not bringing it down, but it's cutting the tartness. And $1.99 super chat by our great friend, longtime friend, since the very beginning, Eric, one of the moderators of the Candle Enthusiast Facebook group. If you're not a member of the Facebook group, swing over and request to join. It's I am not the star of this show. There's some fine folks who work really hard to make sure there's always great conversations, not just about candles, but holidays and traveling and everything that we all kind of have in common. It's a great group of folks over there. So big plug to the Candle Enthusiast Facebook group. Do it. You have a Facebook profile, do it. And a big shout out to Howie. Happy birthday, Howie. Thank you for reminding me about that. And you're going to find the link to the Candle Enthusiast group. If you're watching this live, you're going to find it in the comment or the chat section on the side here. Thank you, Eric, for for posting that. And a happy, happy birthday to Howie. Hope you're doing something fun. All right, so cran apple juice, and then I want to throw in something, and I think I'm right, but I literally haven't had one of these probably since I was 12 years old. The juice that comes in the foil bag, Capri Suns, right? That's what I mean. There's a juiciness, but so sugary that it's almost candified. And that's not bad. That's not bad. $5 super chat from Gregory. Thank you so much, Gregory. Shane, thanks for the live show at the Village. Hope to be visiting the Village myself for the first time in early 2020. Well, that's a great time to come. People always ask me, when's a great time to come to the Yankee Candle Village? And I'm like, well, it depends. If you want the place to yourself, January, February. January's a little bit more busy because of the semi-annual sale, but February, it is very quiet and very intimate. It's a great time to come if you really just want to soak it all in and take your time. But it's also great to be here on a day like today when there's just hundreds of shoppers everywhere. Can't beat it. Can't beat it. What else? I'm going to read the rest of my notes. And make sure I read all of a Yankee Candle's notes as well. Pomegranate gin fizz, what did I say? I said cran apple juice, craisin, tart raspberry candy. Yes, red fruit. Ooh, Lauren says I went to Yankee Candle Village New Year's Eve the last 2 years. It was fun and very it's still festive. So that's a really good point. Thank you for pointing that out. I've never been here anywhere near the holidays or after the Christmas, I should say. I always go to see the semi-annual sale, and usually the 26th is when the spring preview comes out. I put tart raspberry candy, creamy pineapple soda. So I took a different spin on the pineapple there. Kind of liked how I fixed it. This one I'm glad I remembered. Or I didn't remember, that I wrote down. So we have this sprig of, I don't know, Douglas fir. I'm looking at it closer now. Maybe it's a hemlock now. Although hemlocks, aren't they, some of them poisonous? I don't know. No, it does, and that looks like a spruce. I don't know what's in this drink, but the bottom line is that juniper berries from coniferous trees. If you don't know what they smell like, you know what I'm going to say. Find out. Number one ingredient in gin, the spirit, other than citrus, is juniper berries. So, what is gin? Gin is vodka. Vodka, essentially. It's a neutral spirit, or at least vodka is a neutral spirit. The difference between gin is that it's distilled with things like juniper berries. It's distilled with other herbs like bay laurel. It's distilled with juniper berries, rosemary, herbs, spices, you name it, fruits, you got it. So that's the difference between gin and vodka. It's not neutral. It's distilled with these ingredients to impart its flavor. And I'm so glad that there is this strong juniper berry quality here, because it does make this connection to this gin fizz, like a slow gin fizz. And I mean, to me, it is very juicy, very sweet, very tart. But if we want to make that connection to the cocktail, I think that juniper berry is a good connect. I'm glad I reread that. And like I said, the Capri Sun. And I did write rosemary down here as well. I'm not sure if I actually said that or not. So that is it. We talked about all 8 of the candles, but I do want to go over some of the notes that I didn't talk about. I've missed a couple of them. We talked about that one. Talked about this one. I didn't say the description of Evergreen Mist. Evergreen mist, a peaceful walk through a snow-carpeted evergreen forest as the morning sun swirls, creates swirls, bracing mist. It's my handwriting. This is why I can't read it. I mean, I'm not a good reader to begin with. Pomegranate gin fizz, a sparkling holiday libation. Sweet pomegranate mingles with fresh citrus and cranberry. Cheers. Okay, well, let's read the fragrance notes. Pomegranate gin fizz. Cranberry sparkling pomegranate, fresh lime, festive orange. You know, if oranges, if you're listening, if you're not festive, get out of my way. I will only eat festive oranges. Bam. Juniper berry. It's in the fragrance notes, and I totally did not think it was. I obviously wrote this down, but I did this very fast early this morning before coming here. And I thought I was going to mention something that you guys didn't already know, but it's right there in the fragrance notes. Juniper berry, rosemary, gin. I don't smell gin. I mean, unless you're talking about the juniper berry. And then base notes, agave syrup, which is pretty neutral. So maybe they're just talking about sweetness. And then fruity musk. Interesting. This is the second time, and the only time, or the only two times I've ever seen Yankee Candle use this descriptor, fruity musk. The other time was on a poached pear flambe 2 autumns ago, and I like that term. When I use fruity musk, I'm talking about the fragrant nature of, say, a pear, the pear skin versus the flesh. Christmas celebration. Top notes: black cherry, raspberry, eucalyptus, chocolate pudding. This was the one I was saying like was all over the place. I didn't get chocolate pudding, but that is a very weird concept. Black cherry, raspberry, eucalyptus, chocolate pudding. And it's not even over. Fir garland, toffee, vanilla, sandalwood, sugarcane. That is a monster of a candle. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think there's definitely a market and a place for this kind of mishmash candle. It's fun. It's fun, you know, as long as you're kind of making sure that this goes with this and that goes with that, and nothing's conflicting with each other. Sure, why not have fun? Have fun. But as far as you know, conceptually, it's kind of hard to come up with a conception with a candle that smells like 150 things. The description of that is the flavors and scents of a festive gathering, ripe berries, and evergreen mixed with eucalyptus and a pinch of chocolate. Unexpected, I love this, and nostalgic. Okay, so I think Yankee's kind of embracing that candle. Yeah, so I think if I missed anything, we'll put that in the description. I'll put it in the description below. So you can, later on when this video is posted, you can check out the description, the top notes, base notes, what Yankee says, and I'll list all of the candles as well, because as you see, we're going to move to the returning favorites from this year. We ready to start? Let's do it. We are at, if I can find them, red berry and cedar. I just bought a black band of this candle not too long ago. I found a seller who had it. I drove a little bit. I picked it up, got it for a great price. It was in great condition. Really, really rich smell of the cedar. A part of the tree that we're outside in this situation. To me, it's like right at the base of the trunk, and even the dirt, the soil that lingers around by the trunk of the tree. The berry's tart. It's got that sugar plum quality to it, but it's not a dominating force. That smells pretty spot on. You know, these are new candles. They probably, some of these haven't probably even been opened since they left the factory. It's important to let them breathe a little bit, just like wine. But I think the important thing to note is that this is very similar to what we would expect from this quite old, I would say early 90s fragrance. And speaking about the 90s, this fragrance was the original balsam and cedar candle. The candle was replaced by balsam and cedar. And this is going to be balsam fir. Balsam fir. No end in there, just balsam fir. 1997, this was the last appearance of this candle. And then balsam cedar made its appearance. To me, this was always closer to mistletoe than it was balsam and cedar. I have a black band of this at home. There was a couple limited editions of this that came out in a can a couple years ago. It was I don't know, maybe like a six ounce silver can that had this really pretty label, but to me it did not have the profile of the original balsam fir candle. So if you go on eBay or something like that and you type in balsam and fir, you will not find a contemporary one of this. Actually, that's not completely true. I think they're now that I'm thinking about it, I did have a couple of short runs in the full size label, without the black bands. I'm sorry, I'm supposed to be giving you information, correct information, and I'm fibbing. Yeah. So, without going into too much in depth, because I've evaluated a lot of these candles, and if you have any questions about them, please leave them in the comments below. But this, to me, is a milder form of mistletoe, and I'll tell you why that's not bad. Because mistletoe, at least back in the day, it was a powerhouse, a strong candle, just like balsam and cedar. Man, I mean, I don't think some of my apartments that I've lived in were way too small to ever burn something like balsam and cedar. You'd burn it and you'd have to put it out. Very, very powerful candle. And so was so was mistletoe, So this is a great option in that if you want that volume turned down a little bit, and a little bit, this is kind of like mistletoe and a little bit of Yankee Candle's Christmas tree, because maybe there's a little bit of that vetiver vegetation in there as well, earthiness. This is a great option. What do you guys think about these labels? These returning favorites? I don't want to get into that too much, but these candles had really, really great labels back in the day. And it makes me curious why they didn't kind of revisit the old labels like they had been in the past couple of years. And let's keep this going. Oh, here's something that's interesting that I do not want to forget is if you come to the Yankee Candle Village in South Deerfield, Massachusetts, or if you're shopping down in Williamsburg, the other flagship store, you'll find this village exclusive, although it's not saying it on the label this year. So I'm wondering if there's other ways of getting this. This is balsam and cedar, but every year at the villages, they release a different label. They kind of historically always put Santa in some form of vehicle because Mike Kittredge, the founder of Yankee Candle, is a big collector of vintage vehicles, and they kind of did away with that last year. But this year we have actually this close-up of Santa, giving us the hush. And it actually is, to me, a really nice label. It's a really great photograph. And I think it, you know, if you just don't want to burn balsam and cedar and look at essentially a tree, which is the label, I think this one's actually really, really nice. Very festive. You know, I've never really bought the Village exclusives every year. But after looking at this one, I think that's really quite nice. And remember, you can't go wrong with the biggest, highest selling candle of all time, Balsam and Cedar. All right, so everyone loved this candle, right? Right? At least that's what you guys tell me. Pine cone and lime, you know. Whew, I mean, this is a pine cone margarita. This is a pine tree margarita. No joke, seriously, I mean that. This has like that, you know, not just the lime juice, but the sour mix that you put into like inexpensive margaritas, right? Or the frozen margaritas. It has, I mean, not all sour mix is inexpensive. I don't mean to say that. But it's not just about the lime. It actually smells like you made a gin margarita with sour mix in it and lime juice, if that makes any sense to you. Festive, to me, it definitely falls into the category of libation. It smells like a beverage. It really does. We have Jack Frost. Jack Frost had a beautiful labels. It had several different labels, but this one actually is kind of cool, even though it's very minimalistic, just like the others. That bright white wax with those peppermint swirls. That's kind of cool. This is your classic straight up softer peppermint. This is not like peppermint extract, right? Peppermint extract is, you know, it can burn your eyes a little bit. It's so pungent. But imagine adding a little bit of cream in there, a little bit of sugar into that peppermint. Like a candy cane. You melt down a candy cane. This is exactly what you get. Now, with that said, because it has those sweet qualities to it, it's not going to be a high intensity candle. But if you like a lower intensity peppermint candle, actually is pretty strong. Actually, my eyes were kind of squinting there for a second. I don't know. Maybe I might have to eat my words there. But there's a lot of soft, lower intensity peppermint candles by Yankee Candle, and I like the strong ones. There was one years ago. You can still find it at the outlets. It's just was simply called Merry Christmas. Had Santa Claus on it. Go to your outlet, pick that up if you really want a strong peppermint candy. Candle by Yankee Candle. This is Christmas Wish, another oldie by Yankee Candle. I can't give you an exact year, but I would venture to guess early 90s. And this was released as a returning favorite 2 years ago. So I guess glad to see it back, but where's Angel's Wings, guys? Where's Angel's Wings? We won't go into this in depth, but this is a take off you know, the classic Christmas cookie scent. So if you like the frosted cupcake, sugar cookie mixture thing, Christmas Wish. The candle deserves more discussion than that, but I'm trying to move this along. We also have Bayberry. Now, a lot of Bayberry candles. This reminds me of Philly Candle Man. Philly Candle Man is the authority of Bayberry candles. Oh my God. Some people, you know, when they smell Bayberry, or this one specifically, you know, some are just going to embrace it and love it. It's going to be new to them, and it's going to bring it to some different place. But some people might just have really bad associations with Bayberry. To some, this could be a nauseating smell. It really could be. And but true to its name, I think it's a beautiful candle, and is you know, a staple of Yankee Candle Christmas in all different forms. Bayberry's popped up in a bunch of different fragrances throughout the years. And looks like, folks, we are getting to that point where we're coming to an end. Last but not least, so we have 4, 5, 6, 7 returning favorites, or returning classics, apparently, is what they were calling them. Now, these used to be called treasures, and they actually, I'm looking at these, this is how little I've been able to keep up with Yankee this year. They actually have, for the 50th anniversary, the years on them. So the Christmas Wish was the early 90s, like I said. Bayberry back to the 70s, which makes sense. 90s for Jack Frost. Balsam and Fir, 90s. Okay, so I was right anyway. Yeah, and then Pinecone and Lime was a contemporary candle. That's 2000 teens. And Red Berry and Cedar, 2000s. So last is a kind of a controversial candle. Some people just don't like it. I honestly, I have nothing to say to that other than I think it smells absolutely bubbly, lovely, and child-friendly, and I really don't understand why people don't like it. And the fact that it does appear, this aroma profile appears in a lot of other candles, is, I think, a testament that people do enjoy it. This is Sugar Plum by Yankee Candle, which was also, released not all that long ago. And it dates back to the 1980s here. And we talked about sugar plum before. Again, it smells like that really tart blue fruit, black cherry, if you want to call black cherry, but it just has this like cherry Dr. Pepper Coca-Cola thing that's really hard to describe. Does it really smell like a sugar plum? I don't know, but to me, when I smell this, it just definitively reminds me of Yankee Candle. So glad to see that back. Folks, thank you so much for joining in for my 4th annual Christmas evaluation here at the Yankee Candle Village. I want to thank all of those with the super chats. I want to thank all of you for tuning in, whether it was here live or if you're watching it later. And I want to thank everyone who's been with me throughout the past 3+ years making these videos. A lot of people have been wondering where I have been. I assure you, I haven't disappeared. I've just been really busy with work outside of the Candle Enthusiast. And all this means is that when I do finally come back full time, there's going to be lots of stuff to share. I give you my word. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, comments, leave that down below. And make sure you give this video a thumbs up. And thanks. I'm seeing all the comments fly up. I want to thank you guys all collectively. Thank you so much for joining and for all the kind words. I will see you soon. But until then, be good, will you? Merry Christmas and happy holidays, everyone.